Exercise 9. In this exercise, we're going to take a look at the functionality inside Creo Parametric 4.0 when working with assemblies. This is actually going to start with very basic top-down. We're talking very, very basic, where we're going to essentially make the box that you see in front of you. It's really a pencil sharpener. We're going to make the front cover and then base the back cover off the front cover. And that's kind of the idea, or at least the foundation of top-down, is building the parts inside the assembly around each other and utilizing geometry from one to the other so that if a change ever comes down, as you can see here, if we decide to widen the red front cover, both entities will update. So that's what we're going to take a look at. Let's begin with a new assembly and go ahead and label this E9. And we're going to start off by inserting a new part. Now you can draw inside the assembly, and you could sometimes refer to that as skeletal assemblies, where you could draw the parameters of whatever you're going to assemble. We're not going to do that here though, but that's a little bit more of advanced modeling inside an assembly. But let's begin first of all. To start a new part, go to Create, and then over here in the right side, you'll see you could create a part, a subassembly, solid or sheet metal. We're going to go ahead and call it the, we're going to be a part and solid, and give it a name E9 underscore front for front cover, and hit OK. Now, as far as the creation method, do you want to copy from existing or leave it empty? If you choose to leave it empty, eventually, or use a different something else, you might find there's some restrictions. But we're going to go ahead and hit copy from existing, the inch-pound part, and hit OK. And it should drop it right on the origin of the assembly. So the origin of your part file matches the origin of the assembly. Front, top, and right planes are all aligned. We're going to go ahead and go with default and hit the green check mark. Now we could see it in the feature tree here, or the model tree, but let's go ahead and hit this little settings button and go to tree filters. And I just like to turn on the features so I could actually see them. So hit OK. And now if you hit the little arrow to the left of the E9 front part, you can see it has its own front, top, and right planes and origin. And we're going to go ahead and edit that. So the way to edit the part that you're working on, you simply right click on it in the feature tree and click on this little green star, and that's to activate it. And essentially that enables you to edit that part, because imagine you had 1,000 parts. You only want to work on one at a time typically. You're not working on all of them at the same time. So anyhow, now we're going to go ahead, and another little side note is when you're going to start a sketch, I have students ask, should I sketch on the front plane of the assembly or the front plane of the part? You could, I would recommend sticking with the part file as best as you can. Remember, you could sketch off of any model that's in the, as long as it's flat, any surface of a model that's in there, and sometimes you could use that to your advantage. In this case, just to keep those links to a minimum, let's go ahead and we're going to try and maintain most of what we have here in this part. So select the front plane of the E9 front, and go ahead and go right to Extrude. Now let's take the center rectangle tool, and right at the origin, click and drag out a rectangle. Try not to get it equal, because that could cause some trouble. But and essentially here I don't see the equal symbols, but strangely enough, it's not giving me the second dimension. So I'm going to wipe that clean. Let's just start over again there. There we go. Okay. So basically, make sure you have both vertical and horizontal dimensions, and change those both to 2 by 2 to make a square. Okay, so now with that done, let's go ahead, and we could actually put the fillets on here if we want as sketched fillets, or later on it might be easier. Let's just wait. Hit OK. And now the extrusion depth here, we actually only want it to be about 1 inch thick. And let's verify that in the manual here. And here we could see it is 1 inch thick, and then there's going to be a boss that's a 1/2 inch, and so on and so forth. So as long as we have that set, let's go ahead and hit apply. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn off the planes temporarily, and we can now click on this face and go to extrude, and we're going to draw a center circle, just a circle tool right at the center. Drag out the circle and middle click 2 times and go ahead and change it to 1.25 for the diameter. And we could hit OK. And this only goes a depth of 0.5, 1/2 inch. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and cut the hole in it. So select the face, go to extrude, and select the circle tool once again right at the center. Draw this out, and this is going to be I'm going to have to look at the manual here. It's on page 91. The diameter of that hole is a 1/2 inch. Okay, now I could go ahead and hit OK, flip the direction so that it cuts it, and set it to through all. And hit the green check mark. Now we could go ahead and start putting some of the blends in here, rounds. Click on round, and let's set it to 0.1. And again, I'm going to verify that. Let's see, we have a 0.25 that's in that crevice, and then the others are all 0.125. So a good thing I verified that. 0.125. And now select these 4 edges here. Go ahead and select these edges here. And then the front and back edges. And then select this edge, and now you could drag the little handle out if you like and try and get to 0.25, or just double click on the value, type in 0.25. Okay, and here when you see that the geometry is no longer visible, that's usually a side showing you that you've done too much there. So perhaps we should take that one out. If you hold Control and select that green line and deselect it, let's see. And just set that back to 0.125. Okay, and let's just delete that one. Okay, there we go. I had to go into the sets and actually delete it. I thought maybe the Control key would have worked, but apparently not. Hit the green check mark. Now go ahead and we're going to go to the round tool. And for this one, you can set to 0.25 in advance, and this should be able to adopt this. I think what happened when you're doing all those in one shot, notice how it has to break this surface. It due to order of operations mathematically behind the scenes, perhaps it was having some issues with that. Okay, so with that being said, now we're going to go ahead and flip it around the back, and we're going to shell it. So go to the shell command, and the wall thickness is set to 0.1. And let's go ahead and just type in 0.1 there and hit the green check. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to make a lip around here, and it's going to be only half the thickness, 0.5, and it's only going to be 0.25 in height. So I'm going to show you a little trick here. We could go to extrude, select this face, and we're going to go to offset and select loop, select the face, and hit next until you see the outer edge highlight. It's kind of hard to see. As soon as I hit next, you can see a thin blue line that goes around there. It used to be red in the older version, but this makes it a little more challenging to see. Keep hitting next until you see that light up. And then you could finally hit escape. And it's okay actually if you get the inside edge. Either one of them just has to be an offset of 0.5, either plus or minus. In this case, it's going to give us an outward with the arrow showing that. So we have to type in a negative number, minus, I should say, 0.05. Hit enter. Okay, now ordinarily you would probably want to grab the inner edges, but I'm going to show you a little neat thing here. We're going to go ahead and hit OK and set the height to 0.25. And now what we're going to do is go over here and use the Thickened sketch tool to hollow that out on the inside. Now the thicken sketch should be set to 0.05 for the wall, and this is how it should look. Remember, there's a flip switch if you need to, but we actually want it to look like this, where there's a little ledge right here, a little step. And that, let's see there. Oops, you know what? Make sure you hit it another time. There should be no step on the inside. So it should look just like this. All right, go ahead and hit the green check mark. And there's a ledge. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we'll just change the color here. We could go to View, and we've seen this before with appearances. I'm going to go with red and select the part down in the bottom right for the filter. Click on the part, middle click. Okay, and I think it actually turns gray once we exit out of editing it, but let's see, maybe it won't. So I'm going to right click up here. Just remember, with top-down modeling, you have to switch between parts, and in this case we are done with this part for right now, and we want to introduce a second part for the rear of the pencil sharpener. And to do that, we first have to get out of editing this part. So you edit or activate the assembly. So at the top of the feature tree, click on the little star and it activates it, and our color still stayed there, which is good. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and build something on the back side of this. So let's go back to Create, and over here again, Part Subassembly, and we're going to call this the E9 underscore rear. Hit OK, and again, copy from existing, hit OK. And we could, in theory, go with the default. Or we could actually select this surface if we wanted to make sure we could draw on that. Either one is going to turn out, in this case, the same way. But note that, remember I told you early on, you could select any face to sketch on, but you want to make sure it's a valid face for your design. So in this case, we could select that. We could actually just go back to default, and it will drop everything centralized on the origin. And I'm going to do that and hit OK. I'm going to hit the little arrow to the left of the E9 front to bring up the information that we no longer want to see. Just a clean little housekeeping, you might say there. Okay, now I'm going to go to the E9 rear part, and from here we could either select these planes or we could actually draw right off the surface of the model. So make sure though, don't forget to activate the part you want to work on. So I'm going to activate the E9 rear, and there's what I meant. It turns gray, and it's just temporary. So now we could go to Extrude and literally base our design off of these edges of this surface. So I'm going to select that face, and I'm going to do a project because we want it to be the same size. And by doing this, now we could go over here to the loop, select that little face right there, and hit next until you see the outer edges highlight that light blue, and hit accept. And beware, somewhere in the settings, the options which I showed you in the first day, exercise 1, you could probably find out where you could actually change that color. I've never really looked for it, but it's in there somewhere. Go ahead and hit accept, and you can see the outer edges are now projected for us. What we're going to do with those is we're going to extrude that. But the nice thing is, notice we didn't have to draw anything. We didn't have to dimension anything. It's going to be the exact same outer size of this front. And if we ever change the front, remember, because of these little links you see right here, it will update with the front. So let's go now to OK, and we can see we're extruding, and we want to extrude this. Let's go to the next sheet here. We're going to go ahead and go with 1.5 and then put a little dome on the back with a fillet. So 1.5, just like that. Hit the green check mark. Now the dome on the back is just going to be really a 1/2-inch fillet that goes around here. And so go to the round tool and type in 0.5 and select this edge, and you'll see some of the spectacular filleting capabilities here as it creates that geometry, so it will fit nicely in someone's palm when they're sharpening a pencil. Go ahead and hit the green check mark. Okay, the next thing we want to do is, you can see the part is transparent in front of it, which is very nice. It allows us to work on this part, although sometimes you might want to hide it. And I'm going to go ahead and right click, or just click once on the E9 front, and you'll see a little pair of little eyeball. Click on hide. And that's just temporary. We could always click on it again and bring it back when we want. But let's go to shell, and the shell wall thickness here, go ahead and select this face, and technically you'd probably want to add a couple thousandths tolerance to this, or reduce it, I should say, but we're just going to keep it simple at 0.5, which was the, I'm sorry, not 0.5, 0.05, and hit the green check mark. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is we want to put little latching mechanisms on here, so when it snaps together, or we have some way it can snap together. So we're going to just put two little latches at the top and bottom. So I would recommend here under display saved orientations, let's go to the right view orientation, select the right plane of your E9 rear part, and go to extrude. We could also turn it to something that's a little easier to interpret when we're looking internally here. So wireframe might be a good one, or hidden lines. Hidden lines actually is rather nice here. And what we're going to do with this is now we're going to go and we're going to draw a center line right in the middle, because we're going to mirror in a second. We're going to go to circle, and right up here, snap to this edge. Right about where my pointer is, you're going to click and drag out a small circle. Click again and middle click. And let's drag some of these dimensions out here. Okay, we need to have it set to 0.125 offset. And the diameter is 0.05. In the print, it shows a radius of 0.25. So remember, radius is half the size of a diameter. But we have a diameter here because it's just going to merge the other half with the part and be unnoticeable. Okay, now let's go ahead and mirror that, so we can select that geometry, go to mirror, and select the center line that we drew, and now it's below there. Hit OK, and now we could change it back to shading with edges and see our little preview here. Now in the print, it's not called out very well as symmetric, but just trust me on this, it's 0.25, and it's from the mid plane. So it should be divided equally on both sides. And this is what it should look like in the preview. If you rotate, you'll see on both sides you have a little clipping mechanism. And now we're making a very simple clipping mechanism, by the way. Okay, so now we are done with that. We could actually change this part too, because we want this part to be transparent for our renderings. So let's go to View, go to Appearances, and the transparency here is PTC glass. Works really well. You could customize it too if you like, but again, just go with the whole part for the filter, and then middle click, and there we have our transparency. Okay, let's now go back, and we're going to turn off editing that part. So we right click on the assembly to activate it. Thus, it's no longer part of our editing mode. We're done with that part. But we do want to put the female side of these this clip mechanism onto the front. So let's toggle that. First of all, click on the front part and show it. And then click on it and activate it. That's the trickiest part, is remembering to activate and deactivate the parts as you go through. So just be aware, it happens even to the best of us where we forget to do that. Okay, so anyhow, now that we have this, we're editing the red part, the front, and we're going to go ahead and select the right plane and go to Extrude. And again, in this case, we probably want to go to wireframe to see this a little easier. Maybe hidden lines. There we go. And there we could see the actual little mechanism that we want to copy. But in this case, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and take the circle, actually go with concentric. Click on that circle, and this will base it off of the geometry of the other. And we're just going to click to make it a little bit larger, and then middle click. And then in this case, we had 0.05 for the diameter of the last one. So let's make it just a little bit like 0.055 and hit enter. So we have a little bit of a tolerance in there. Okay, again, we could go ahead and mirror that over. So we need a center line. Select the geometry, go to mirror, and select the center line, and it should be on the other side. Hit OK. And now we're going to go ahead and we could probably go back to shading with edges to see this a little bit clearer. We're going to go to remove material. We're going to do mid plane once again and 0.255. Again, just adding a little bit of tolerance in there. Hit enter and the green check mark. And if we zoom up closely, let's see. Kind of hard to see it in there, but now we do have the mechanism for both sides. All right, let's deactivate that E9 assembly. So we have to activate, I should say we want to activate the assembly, deactivating the front. Okay, so now actually we could see both models, and you see that? The little wireframe it looks like, the topology I should say, of the clip. Let's go ahead and now we're going to just see how this updates. And I promised you that we would go ahead and change the front part and the back part should update. So let's test that out. Just double click on this part here. And sometimes you could actually get it to edit. Otherwise, you might have to go over here. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and find it on the feature tree. And that first extrude. There's our sketch. If we go ahead and click on Edit Dimension, it should bring the dimensions up. And now we could double click on that. Let's say we want to make it 3 inches in width. And once you get that, click and now hit Regenerate. And there we are, both updated to the new size. That is one of the advantages of top-down assembly modeling. Pro engineer back in the day when it came out, was one of the early adopters of that functionality. It's the grandfather, you might say, of parametric design. So it's a very strong tool to be able to do this. But at the same time, with great strength, you have to be careful how you yield it. And you might find as you develop these models and these assemblies much larger that you just have to be careful what you pick and what you don't pick. So this is just an introductory lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's go back, and I'm just going to go ahead and change this back to the original. I probably could hit undo, but we'll go ahead and just to show you again the regenerate button. Okay, at this point I'm going to go ahead and explode this too. So exploding a view, you go to explode a view, or you could go to edit position. Click on it, and now you just select the model you would like to explode or move away. It will bring up this axis in the center, these X, Y, and Z, and this enables you to actually grab one of those arrows, like in this case the Z arrow, and once you click on it, it should turn green, and you could drag it wherever you'd like. Okay, you could also drag it Y or X. There's many more options in there, but I'm just going to go ahead for right now. And over here you can see how far you moved it. Let's go ahead and hit the green check mark. And to save that view for a drawing, which we're going to create in just a second here, you have to take a picture of it, as I always say. There's a camera up here to do such that. Go to View Manager, and you'll see here you should find Explode. Click on the Explode tab. Rather than creating a new one, which is really nice, imagine you're making a catalog for a company that makes furniture and you want to show how make assembly instructions. And this would enable you to do that because you could create new views on how it's exploded or assembling. But in this case, we're just going to go to edit the existing one, and we're going to save the modified state as the default explode. And hit Update Default and close. Now to disable it, turn off Exploded View, and it should collapse. Alright, and that pretty much concludes the actual exercise. Now the lab and the manual instructs you to recreate this drawing that you see here, L9. And so we're going to make a front, top, right section view, detail view, isometric exploded, and put a parts list in. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so to make this drawing, we can now go to File, New, and go ahead and select Drawing. And you could go ahead and name it the same. This one actually would be L9 for Lab 9. Hit OK. And empty with Format, Browse, and the A format. And hit OK. Alright, so now we're going to bring General View up, hit OK, drop it in just by clicking, double click on Front, and from here we're going to go ahead and go to, we'll just leave it solid and later on we'll change them all. Let's see here, View Display. Okay, we're in pretty good shape. We're just going to go ahead and hit OK. Now I want to go ahead and project additional views. Let's see, there's a, what is that drawing look like? Okay, there's a top view, and then we'll click on this view again and project a right view for our section view. And now to make that section view, let's move this down a little bit. If you can't move them, remember you have to disable lock view movement, and now you could actually drag them around a little bit better. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make this section view. So double click on this view, go to Sections, 2D cross section, Add, just hit Done, and now we're going to go ahead and label this Section A, hit the green check mark. Now we need the plane, so you have to turn on your plane display here and find the plane that's in the center of that front view, and there we go. Make sure you click on it. There we go, and we got the green check mark in front of the A, so it accepted it. Go ahead and hit Apply, and there now we have our section view. But let's go to the view state, and or view display I should say, and make sure you're in no hidden. And the tangent edge display on this one isn't as important, but still I usually myself prefer phantom. Hit Apply, and we're looking pretty good there. Hit OK. We can now turn off the plane display. Don't forget that, or else it shows up. Let's move this over a little bit. Grab the green box. Okay, it's a little tight there. We could change the scale down here. It's 1:1 scale. We'll keep it. Why not? Okay. Now, for these, now we're going to make a detail view of this region right here. So, to make a detail view, go to Detail View, click right in that little area there. You get the little X. Start at 12 o'clock above it. Imagine there's a circle around here. Go to 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Remember, you don't have to completely close it. Once you get to 3 o'clock, middle click, and now left click up here to drop the detail view, which should automatically bring you into a view that's twice the size. And then just straighten these notes out a little bit, perhaps. Okay, the next thing we want here is we're going to go ahead and bring in the isometric view. So again, that's a general view. Just hit OK, left click, and we'll make this a bit smaller. Just for this particular one, we'll go to Custom Scale, and we'll make it a half scale. And we could go to View States and explode it. And hit OK. We'll just put that over there. Okay, now these two views, we're going to go ahead and Control Select and double click on the last one and make sure it's set to no hidden and phantom, apply, and OK. The bill of materials, now here's the thing, I actually forgot to download it. I have one that's already pre-made, but here's how to make one manually. You can actually go into Table, and especially with two parts, it's not terribly difficult. So here we could go ahead and click on, you'll see Table, and we really just need a quantity, a number, description, quantity, the labels at the top, and then the two that we have. So just, it'll be a total of 9 cells. Click, and now we can just drag it right over here. we'll leave it right there for right now. We'll go back and change the size in a moment. To change the size of this, it's really kind of nice. You could just do this. You could click from here, go from left to right, and select that group of cells. And now if you right click, you could go to width and change the width here. Instead of characters 10, this is only going to have a couple characters, so we could really just go with probably 3. Preview it, hit OK. This one, the same thing. Just click and drag across, right click, width, and we could probably go with maybe 4 on this one. Looks good. Okay. And now let's drag it over. Oops. It's let me type in right away. I want to actually get over here. Here we go. Okay, so first of all, let's put in here, let's see here. We'll put an item, and then double click on the next cell here. And this will be quantity. And this will be, it's kind of hard to double click. Double click in the lower left corners of the cells that seem to be working better. Description. Okay, and now here is where we're finding we're running out of room. So you could click and drag across the center there, right click, and the width again, let's maybe make that, looks like we'll need 12. Preview, yep, 12 looks pretty good. Click and drag across, middle click sometimes, drag across, right click on the item group, the width. We should probably go with maybe, looks like we only need 4. And quantity looks pretty good. Let's get this over here. Let's grab the drag handles. I keep forgetting about that. Okay, so now let's see, the item, this will be number 1, that will be number 2. We could actually put the balloons on as well. Create a reference balloon, click. Let's see here. Okay, we'll have to do that in a little bit. But anyhow, or we could just add a note that way. But here I'll double click in the cell. Come on. There we go. Okay, this will be item 1. Double click, this will be item 2. And then over here will be the, we'll go ahead and name it the front. Now there is a template, like I said, I'm going to drop it up there that's already pre-made, and you can just drop it in. It's all automatic. This is the long way to do it. And again, I don't do this very often because usually I use my table, but just put 1 in there. Come on. There we go. And oops, there's only 1 in there. Oh, that's interesting. It didn't come out the way I planned. Let's see here. We'll get that in a second. All right, so now as far as the, let's see if we could get the balloons on here. No, probably have to go to note. Let's see what we have in here. Okay, so let me see if we could get that with a leader on here, and we'll just put number 2 on that one. And then let's see, we want a leader, so okay, so here's a method of doing this. We could go to, first of all, we use note, and there's note with leader. We could do tangent, things like that. Let's go with leader note and click. Oops. And let's go ahead and type in, let's see, middle click and type in 1. There we go. This one, I could erase that in a second, but here I'll go ahead and put another one in over here. Click, and then middle click, type in 2, oops, and middle click to end it. To delete one, you just click on it and you hit delete. There are other ways. You could pretty much do anything in this, but like I said, as far as the tables go, I'm going to see if I could drop one on there, and you can see also in the midterm exam and the final exam reviews that are in there, they show you how to put the tables in. So that concludes Lab 9.